Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two people who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
And we're back.
Yay.
I have been living the most stressful life in the entire world because today was my first day of school for my kiddos, and Frozen National Broadway Tour, the first theater we've had in Buffalo in 18 months. Well, no, there's some local theaters have been doing like virtual and stuff and like really cool ways to try to do theater without theater. Opens on Friday. So to say that I have been busy is an understatement.
You're killing it though, and I am so ready to be back at Broadway. I'll be in Buffalo, but it's time.
I get to see the show tomorrow night because whenever you're teching a new show, you have to have somebody watch it. So because it's out of town, they have the staff of the theater that is teching it are their invited guests. So I get to see it.
I wish I wasn't like, am I 6 hours from you? I wish I wasn't 6 hours from you or however far.
Yeah, that would be quite the drive.
Especially without a car. Yeah. Be a rough trip.
But yeah, so today was my first day of school and met my kiddos. It's definitely weird going from third grade to older. My mom just brought me dinner. To like older kids. Because
yeah.
Just some of the things that they say that like an 8-year-old would never.
Junior high kids, man.
Let me tell you. So it's my first day, so I have favorites, but like they probably won't last as my favorites because this is just solely based on first impressions. So the 8th grader who gets my first impression rose in her class. At one point, she looks up at this poster I have in the classroom that has a picture of William Shakespeare on it and goes, "Is that Leonardo DiCaprio?"
Sweet baby angel.
And the kids in her class were like, "I'm sorry, what?" And I was like, no, that would be William Shakespeare. And she goes, "But I'm just trying to," she was like, "Are you?" I said, "Sweetie, Leo has hair." And she's just like so frustrated trying to put words together. And she goes, "No, but like the Leonardo DiCaprio who's not a movie star from like a long time ago." And her best friend goes, "You mean Leonardo da Vinci?"
I don't know what I was expecting, but that wasn't it.
And I was like, well, this is going to be a good year. Good year. Let's go.
I can't wait to hear all of the stories and not have to deal with them.
You do get the better end of that.
For sure. Yeah. It has indeed been a long week, though. I've been applying for part-time jobs because it's hard to stay alive in New York City, as I'm learning. Been here almost 4 years, and I still can't stay alive here. So
that's why I only lasted 6 months, and then I said, "Get me out of this place."
Well, I love it. I don't want to live anywhere else, but
I wish I did.
It's not easy.
I wish I had loved it. I hated living there.
Well, you'd love it if you lived with me. I'd let you live with me and pay half of my rent. Could hang out with my dog.
Unfortunately, I don't think that my job as a full-time teacher pays half of your rent.
I don't know. It probably doesn't. No, I did go on a date with a teacher once, though, and he owns his own house in South Brooklyn. So.
Yeah, he teaches for a public school.
So, you could do that.
I don't work at a public school. I also don't work at a New York City school.
I can understand. I mean, I grew up in public school, but I'm from the South and not the bougie South. I'm from small town South, so yeah.
I mean, my classes, I'm at a private school, so there's only one sixth grade class in the whole school, and there's 10 kids in the class.
It's nice.
I love it. My biggest class, these poor, like I love the other teachers, but some of them, it's very obvious that they've never worked in a public school, because like my biggest class is 21 students.
Yeah.
And like the one teacher was talking about how she could not possibly have 25 kids in her class. I was like,
I feel like that's like, logically that's too many, and I wish that they were smaller because it's better for the kids. But also, like, I feel like growing up, we always had like
right,
21 kids in our class, and
yeah,
the
that's
same 21 kids since I was 5 were in my class till high school. So
right. But like having like 25 kids is pretty much every classroom in a public school in middle and high school.
It's not
especially like in my district, like in the city that I live in our district, there's like 8 or 10 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 1 high school. So even if the elementary classes can afford to be smaller, by the time they're in middle school, you've got 25, 30 kids in a room. Like you can't help it.
Right.
I mean, in Thailand, my classes had 32 kids in them.
But you had the sweetest.
I know, I had 32 angels in my class. On my desk, I have a picture of one of my classes from Thailand on my desk. Aww. So I can just look at them and be like, remember when I had kids who listened to me?
When I didn't have snotty teenagers.
So far, they're pretty good, but I've also only had them for 30 minutes.
Yeah, just it'll get worse.
We'll see tomorrow when I make them do their first writing assignment, how much they're still good.
How exciting.
How about your week? Anything exciting?
Yeah, I didn't do a whole lot. I got a 4-day weekend, which was amazing because Labor Day and Rosh Hashanah. I am not Jewish, but I appreciate the Jews, and especially when I can use their holidays. Also not during their holidays. They're fine. They're fine people. But I played Animal Crossing. I'm late to the game. I've only been playing for like 3 or 4 months now.
Never played it.
It will hook you, which I get real hooked into. I don't know if it'll hook you. I get real hooked into video games.
My problem is I don't believe in playing games that don't have like a path. Mm-hmm. Like I don't.
They have a challenge.
But like roaming world things where you can just build things on your own pace and stuff, like that doesn't appeal to me because I just would get so bored.
Okay, so that doesn't appeal to me either. The thing with Animal Crossing, you're trying to get your villagers pictures to put them on your wall, and that means they love you, and then you can switch them out for a different villager and get their picture.
Right, but there's no
they have like fishing challenges.
But there's no end point. Like there's no
game.
No, I want to beat the game. I want to accomplish something.
Yeah, I just have like checkpoints.
I'm still trying to beat the entire game of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle.
I haven't played Sonic, and so
I think out on the GameCube.
Oh, I loved the Sega Sonic was the one I was.
Yeah, no, I have the one for the GameCube. I have a GameCube. I'm still trying to beat that game.
Yeah, I bought GameCube for that Pokemon game. I don't remember what it was called. Whichever one came out on GameCube. It was like the first game system I bought for myself, and I was so proud of myself. And then I think my parents threw out like 1 cord to the GameCube, so I still technically own a GameCube, but I don't think it has all its pieces, so I haven't played it.
It's a little difficult to play.
My Switch and my Xbox, that's what I tend to stick to. And there's this amazing, this is exciting. There's this Alice in Wonderland game that's hella twisted. She like has swords and machetes and stuff. Amazing. And they have Alice 1 and 2, and they announced recently, I may be behind the time, so within the past few months, they've announced they're coming out with Alice 3. Ooh. And I am stoked because that game got me through a lot of quarantine. First of all, I played both the first and second during quarantine and beat them. I beat the second one twice. And I just want to turn on my murder podcast and play my creepy Twisted Alice game. I'm living my best life.
And walk past the Ferris wheel in Times Square.
Oh yeah, we have a Ferris wheel in Times Square. I don't know why. I saw it on social media and I was like, one day I'm going to walk down and just take a picture. And so I did today. And then I was like, oh, today was not the day to walk in Times Square. It never is. At 5 o'clock on a weekday is not when you should ever be in Times Square. But I've
only ever loved Times Square at 3 o'clock in the morning.
My favorite time that I was in Times Square was when you were here and we went to Ellen Stardust Diner and got hella drunk on that drink that you light on fire.
Oh,
and we stumbled our way through Times Square while they were shooting a car commercial at like 1 a.m.
Oh my God, I remember. I just remembered that. That memory did not exist in my head until you said that.
That is one of probably my favorite Times Square memory.
That was a good night.
It was
wonderful. It was a very good night.
And then we went home and you read me tarot cards. You told me my life was going to be okay. I think you lied, but we're getting there probably. It was like 3 years ago and it has not come true.
One of my students today, when he found out that I had worked both in Asia and at Disney World, he asked me, and I quote, was luck your drop shot?
What?
And I said, I'm sorry, what? And then he explained to me that a drop shot is something like in a video game where you can like put all of your like stuff into one chest to like one up that skill. So he was saying that like I was super lucky. That's just the way he asked it. And I go, I don't know, man. Like I'm still super single and I live with my parents. And he said, in this economy, we all do.
You're 13, of course you do.
No, but he literally was like, we all do. I mean, in this economy. And I was like, I'm gonna like you. That was grade A humor right there, my friend.
Precious baby angel. He has no idea. No idea. When you're living on sandwiches and water for months because you can't afford anything, come talk to me. And hard seltzer because necessities.
I was like, when you're drinking wine that you don't remember when you put it in the fridge.
Look, it happens.
I definitely put it in the fridge when The Bachelorette was still on.
That wasn't too long ago. You're probably fine.
It was before my sister-in-law moved to Florida.
It was only like a month and a half ago.
Yeah, but like sometime in that range.
You're fine.
Speaking of reality TV, we won't be discussing The Bachelor too in depth this week because I did not finish watching it because, first day of school and also because it is a dumpster fire. But in terms of other dumpster fires, the cast of Dancing with the Stars 30 was announced today.
I just literally I have a group chat for my own Facebook for Bachelor stuff. And we were talking about the Dancing with the Stars, and they had only announced
JoJo and JoJo.
Yeah. And one of the guys was just like, he was like, are they just getting people on there who can already dance now? And I was like, that's kind of what it seemed like the past few seasons.
Okay, so they have Suni Lee, who's a gymnast. They have JoJo Siwa, who's a dancer. They have I can't remember her name, but she's literally, her job is a Broadway dancer.
Yeah. There's like 75% of the cast is all people who are professional dancers or trained.
And then they have things like there's like one athlete, like one basketball player, but it's someone I've literally never heard of.
I also hadn't heard of him.
Matt James, the Bachelor himself,
is the most boring Bachelor in the history of Bachelor.
I didn't hate his Bachelor season. I actually think that he got done dirty by producers.
So I like him as a human.
Yeah.
But I was so bored with his personality.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I also think part of the problem was that whether like feelings on the situation aside, because I do think that there was problems with the situation, I don't think he was ever mad at Rachel. I think their breakup was entirely producer funded to make awareness of the Black Lives Matter movement stronger. And I feel bad for him as a person because he clearly was uncomfortable with all of that.
Yes, I 100% agree.
So I would like a chance for him to redeem himself when he's not being shit on by producers, except that
Dancing with the Stars
tried to dance on his season of The Bachelor, and it was bad. Like,
it was real bad.
He's a Black man with no rhythm at all.
Bless his heart.
Also, he's like 6'7". He's going to look stupid with all of the dancers.
I know. I'm wondering.
It doesn't matter who his partner is. Like, I hope for his sake that it's somebody like Emma, who has done things with basketball players before and like is better at choreographing. Someone taller.
Is her name Sharna?
Sharna is not back on the show. Sharna was fired from the show.
I'm like 2 seasons behind. What happened with Sharna?
I don't know all the details. I just know that she was let go, and that then because of COVID and her being in Australia, it wasn't even an option to renegotiate last year. And I think she just decided to like say fuck them all.
I mean, fair.
So Emma's like his only hope, but also then I feel bad because Emma always gets stuck with the tall people who can't dance.
Yes.
So it's just going to be a blazing dumpster fire.
It is. Speaking of other competitions,
the person that I'm rooting for on the show is, oh God, what's her name? It was an actress that when I saw her name, I didn't know who she was, but then I saw her picture and I was like, oh wait, I do know who that is. Oh, she plays Jan on The Office.
Yes, I'm for her too.
That's who I'm rooting for. This is pre-watching the show. Like, I don't know anything. I tend to actually root for the person who is showing the best dancing skills. Like when James Vanderbeek got eliminated on his season, I rioted because he genuinely was the strongest dancer, even if he wasn't
my favorite.
No, I root for, like, I pick my favorites in the beginning, but then like if they're not good dancers, like I love Grocery Store Joe. I was all about Grocery Store Joe.
I missed that season, but I love him.
He can't dance.
See, I picked Andy Grammer. Bless his heart.
Yeah, but that's different.
He did terrible. He had no rhythm in his dancing,
which is so weird because except for did you see the TikTok I sent you of him this week?
So TikTok. I watched them like 3 months after you sent them to me. I'm almost finished watching through Rachel's 157 she sent me. And then I was going to move on to your over 100. I think you have 138 that you've sent me that I need to watch. So no, but I will one day.
Well, I sent you one of Andy Grammer because somebody remixed his song. They did a remix of Honey, I'm Good with, oh God. It was an Earth, Wind, and Fire song. I can't remember.
September?
Yes.
Because that's my favorite. Was it the guy who has a table?
But the thing, this was Andy Grammer's reaction to it.
That's the song. So
he's like dancing, which he can't dance, and it was so funny. And then at the end of the TikTok, he goes, "This is better than the original."
So I'm very single. Let me start there. I'm getting married in 2027 because that's when September 21st falls on a Saturday. And it was, my options were, I think last year or 2027.
No, it's 2024 because
am I getting married in 2024? I gotta hurry up.
No, you can't because my brother and Renee are getting married in September 2024 specifically for that song as well.
So I need to wait 7 years then? 2030.
Well, it would be
2031. When I'm, how old am I now? What year is it? That's 10 years from now. I'll be 38.
I don't know.
Sorry.
I was 100%. My goal was to get married on December 22nd, 2022, and that is looking less and less likely every minute.
About a year and a half. Year and 3 months. You'll find your soulmate. I can wait till
anybody out there. Anybody out there's been looking and thinking, "Wow, she's something else. I should message her." Please fucking do.
I mean, same though. I I'm interested in going on dates. I am not interested in looking for dates.
I am not interested in going on dates. Unfortunately, I don't fucking have time for that. But I am interested in starting a weird text you flirt with me relationship until we both get sick of each other and have to either actually hang out or stop talking forever.
See, I like to go have drinks, but I want to do it when I have time, and I don't know when that is until it's time. So you have to be very flexible. And just kind of ready. I have a place around the corner that takes me 3 minutes to walk to. That's where I'm going to recommend we go. So, and then I'm going to lie to you about where I live so you don't come kill me, because that's also what I do.
It was funny. I was listening to an old Nick Viall podcast from 2019, and he seemed genuinely shocked at how many women are afraid of getting murdered on a first date. And I was like, wouldn't it be nice to be a hot white man? Because I wouldn't know anything about that.
Right. That's why they have like the angel shots and different things. One more thing I was going to talk about, competition wise, I lied. I did other things this week. Football's coming back, and I am doing fantasy football with my Lemon group, and I am so stoked. I don't know if I've talked about them on here before, but so I listen to the podcast, and that's why we drink. And so we have our Lemon Messenger group, and I talk to them like every day. They're super dope, and I love them all. And so they were like, we're starting up a fantasy league, and I was like, I couldn't find one this year, and I didn't really watch last year because everything was terrible.
I haven't watched football because time zones in 3 years, and I cannot tell you how excited I am.
I mean, the Saints are gonna be terrible.
The Bills are not.
The Bills are not. And I tried to get Josh Allen for my team, and I didn't get him.
Who did you get?
I have Joe Burrow, because I was like, there's 10 of us, and I didn't get a good quarterback because everyone started getting quarterbacks in the beginning, which is not how it works. And so I went Joe Burrow, and I was like, he probably kind of sucks still, but he was LSU's quarterback. I may as well. And then who was my – and then I did my second quarterback. I picked Taysom Hill, who's the New Orleans quarterback, who also, like, I've watched him play, and he's got a lot of work to do, but he's a Saint, so I picked him.
Cannot wait to see the Texans play, because this week they named Tyrod Taylor as their starting QB.
I don't know him. Is he from New York, Buffalo?
Yeah, he used to be our starting QB. He is garbage.
See, I don't know a lot about Buffalo. I started learning about Buffalo when they started winning. But I liked my last quarterback I had for fantasy was his name Daniel Jones. He's the Giants quarterback. That's the last one I had. I guess my degree the last year.
I don't play fantasy football because I root for teams, not players.
Yeah, I also root for teams, but I really like a competition, and
that's fair.
So
that is fair. Speaking of a competition, this episode is no competition for how boring it was.
But I do want to tell you about this show. Speaking of Kolchak, I started watching Only Murders in the Building on Hulu. I don't know if you've seen it.
I've heard that that's good. I haven't seen it.
So I absolutely love it. Steve Martin Short, Selena Gomez. I mean, Tina Fey, I think she must have been a producer on it because she comes in every now and then. And the girl who plays Holly from The Office is on it. So it's amazing. And Steve Martin's character plays a TV detective from, like, I think the 80s or something, called Brazos. And one of his lines was, I wasn't some dumb TV detective. I was really good, not like Kolchak. And I lost my mind. I was like, we're bringing it back. 2021 is the year of Kolchak. It was so funny.
Yeah, that is funny. I don't know what I was going to say.
You're talking about how boring this episode was.
Yeah. So my dad came home in like the last 10 minutes and asked me my opinions, because for those of you who are new to this podcast, my dad is the one who suggested we watch Kolchak. And I don't know what it is. Like, there's nothing really I can pinpoint and say, like, that's why I didn't like it. I just didn't really like it. And part of the problem with this show in general is that as it went on, it got campier and campier and less scary. And that's one of the reasons it got canceled, was because by the end, it just wasn't scary anymore. And I think that that's part of my issue, because like in this episode in particular, there is absolutely nothing supernatural until the last minute.
Yeah.
And like, that's not to say that like murder can't be scary, but like Kolchak, like the Night Stalker, like the whole thing was that he was talking about things that couldn't have existed. And a cult that is like redoing ancient, like indigenous, like tribal, like ceremonies is not supernatural. The fact that like the Aztec chief was really like mummified and with them is, except for that didn't come into play until literally the last minute.
So I agree with all of that. And my problem, to add on to that with this episode, was I didn't understand what we were focusing on. I know we were focusing on Aztec culture and the sun god, so I did a very minimal amount of research, 20 minutes, very quickly. And so I literally looked up like Aztec flute, Aztec bird. Like I just looked up the different big points. So I don't know if you know more about this than me. I know nothing except what I Googled in 20 minutes. And so I looked up Aztec flute, and they did have a death whistle.
Mm-hmm.
Not relevant to the five gods, or the five deities, but that is a thing they did. So that is what I'm assuming the flute was representing on the show. They have a bird, the Quetzalcoatl, I think I'm saying it right, is the bird that they worship.
Mm-hmm.
Fine, but then it becomes a killer, the three of them, and that's separate. And then they talked, so then I was reading about the five deities that come back every 52 years, and there's the four main ones, and then the fifth one is the sun god, who is newer than the rest, but still, in the past. So this is supposed to be the sun god. And when I was reading about it, they prepare, so it seems like it's supposed to be kind of like the end of the world is after 52 years. And so what they did was they would kind of prepare everything, turn everything off, and then they would sit on their roofs and wait and see what happened. And they never knew what god was coming until it was there.
Yes, but it is true that they would perform ritual sacrifice to try to decide which god returned.
I see. See, I didn't look up ritual sacrifice. That was my one thing I didn't Google.
Yeah. So, there were like different gods, required different things in ritual sacrifice, and the sun god, required human blood. And so the killing of humans, or the human sacrifice that is often associated with the Aztecs, was in part to try to make sure that if a god returned, it was the one they wanted.
Gotcha.
So that does kind of line up.
But also the first time I watched it, because I watched it twice to kind of like take it all in. And so the first time I watched it, I thought we were going, and it was like Legacy of Horror or something, that's what it was called.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this is going to be about myths whenever I was listening to it, because my first thought was the Pied Piper. So I just read a graphic novel, because the flute and the calling to the birds and all this stuff. So I just read a graphic novel about all these different like things that have happened. And they had the horror telling of the Pied Piper. And then what was the other one I had? Oh, and then when the main guy who becomes the sun god or something, I didn't really understand. But that main guy, he said, I lived a year basically as a king, and then that was it. I knew what I was doing. Well, what I've read about it, and this could just be a different section of the world that I'm reading about, they have 7 years. It wasn't Christian related though, because usually I would think 7 years is like Christian related, but it wasn't. They had 7 years to live essentially like gods. They had all the money they wanted, could do whatever they wanted. After 7 years, they're pretty much dragged to hell, or whatever version it is. So then I was like, are we getting into these stories? And then it was not those stories.
With that actually, what it was is that when you do ritual sacrifices, and this is true about Aztec sacrifices, is that like, especially when there's a series of sacrifices, the final victim has to be willing. They can't be a murder victim. They have to choose to sacrifice themselves. So it isn't necessarily that he lived like a god because that's part of the ritual. It's basically like, what can we do and give you to get you to be okay with this as the end goal?
I see.
Yeah. So like the year of kingly riches was more about the exchange rate than anything else.
That makes sense. I just felt like there was a lot going on in my brain, was making a lot of decisions on its own. And I was like, I don't even know what's happening. I don't know what and then they kept talking about the Aztecs. So I was like, it's definitely going to be about the Aztecs. So I'm just going to start there with my research.
Right. So this episode was called Legacy of Terror, like Courtney said, and it was rated 7.8 out of 10 stars. So that's less than last week, but not by much. And it premiered on February 14th, 1975. Happy Valentine's Day. Let's watch people get murdered.
Sorry, you could have kept going. I was gonna let you do your spiel while I grab my next drink.
Okay, it's fine. The little blurb says, an Aztec cult tries to resurrect an ancient god by sacrificing the hearts of 5 victims. Kolchak races against the clock to save the 5th and final victim from a grisly death. Which would have made more sense if the 5th victim hadn't, been willing to die. It was directed by Don McDougall. His best known credit is a TV show called Jungle Gym, which I've never heard of, so clearly not that well known.
I feel like I've heard of it, but I don't know anything about it. But maybe just the title was catchy.
He directed episodes of Star Trek. He directed episodes of the Planet of the Apes TV show, Mission Impossible, Wonder Woman. He's just done tons of TV episodes that nobody's seen. And that's not true. Lots of people have seen them, just not us.
But neither of us have seen, so nobody else has either.
And that's also not true. I've seen Star Trek and Mission Impossible, so I'm just talking shit right now.
There you go.
It was written by Arthur Rowe, who was a previous writer for the show already. Our guest stars, we had Roman Bieri, who played Captain Webster. He is a previous guest star as well. He played a police chief already, but he played a different police chief.
Is he the guy that had the spiked triangle hair?
I don't know.
Okay. I have a comment about that guy.
No, he was in the episode Bad Medicine. Actually, no, I don't remember if he played a police chief or if he was the one who played the chief who I was mad that was not Native American.
What was his name?
Roman Bieri.
Bieri, as in guy?
No, as in with a, yes, but with a B.
Gotcha. Oh, no, this is not who I was thinking of. Okay.
Oh, no, he was the police chief, not the Indian chief. I was right, but it was a different chief. They had different names. One was Chief Baker, one was Chief Webster. Then we have Pippa Scott, who played Tilly Jones.
I love her.
The character.
I didn't like this episode. The character.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know her as an actor.
She's done a lot of one-off TV appearances, but she is best known for a few movie roles. She was in the 1958 movie Anti-Mame, which I think is the basis for Gypsy or Mame or something like that. I don't know. It's connected to those Broadway things. She was also in the John Wayne movie The Searchers, which is one of his big ones. And she did a lot of stage work. She was trained at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts or whatever in London.
Nice.
Then we have Sorrel Book. He played Mr. Eddie. Gonna be honest, I don't know who Mr. Eddie is. I missed that name anywhere in the episode.
Missed a lot. I'm so bad at hearing their names. Sorrel Book.
Yeah, he's most famous. He played Boss Hogg in Dukes of Hazzard. So he was a pretty big, famous guy.
Can you spell
Sorrell. And the last name is Book, but like with an E at the end.
that? Okay, this one.
The character was named Mr. Eddie, but I don't remember there being a Mr. Eddie on the show at all. So
I think maybe he was the taxidermy guy.
oh, that's possible. That actually would fit for what Boss Hogg would look like too. That makes sense. Then we have Victor Campos, who played Professor Rodriguez. He was a little bit of everything, but he's best known for playing Ronnie in Scarface.
So this guy, I watched again twice. I couldn't stop looking at him. The only thing I could think while I saw this guy was he looks like he's Pete Wentz' father. Because of his hair, it was so dark and he has the like slick down. All I could think was he looked like Pete Wentz' father. But I actually have heard of him. When you said his name, I actually have heard of him.
Yeah, he was in Scarface.
Yeah.
And then the main guest star, the guest star that's actually credited in the blurb, Eric Estrada.
Wilmer Valderrama's father.
Eric Estrada played Pepe Torres, the smooth talker of this episode. Now, do you know who Eric Estrada is?
I know his name.
Exactly. That's the thing. He's one of those guys where even if you can't remember a single thing you've seen him in, you know him. Like, you know that name. Mm-hmm. He was Ponch on Chips.
I haven't seen Chips yet.
But one of the two guys on Chips, and he was Ponch, and that made him really famous. But then since then, he's been like in one episode of literally every show that's ever existed. He's like that guy. And like, I literally was like, Mom, why do I know Eric Estrada? And she was like, Chips. And I go, yeah, but I've never seen Chips. And then we figured out that he's just that guy that even if you don't know him, you know him. And I figured out what my favorite of his credits, the one that I have definitely actually seen is. And that is that he played Carlos Pena's dad on Big Time Rush.
I never watched Big Time Rush, but I love Carlos Peñas. I love him so much.
Him.
I followed him and
Alexa.
all the social media, and they're adorable.
They're my favorite. I don't know, but actually no. There's a tie for my favorite like couple that like just stays out of the drama but is super adorable and has perfect children, and that is the Vegas and Daryl Sabara and Meghan Trainor.
So that makes sense. They're siblings basically. Because I was pretty into Spy Kids as a child. It was like a little bit of an obsession.
I remember when Megan and Daryl first started dating like years and years and years ago, and my dad was like, Junie Cortez is dating Meghan Trainor.
So I did not know they were dating until they got married.
No, I've been obsessed with them since like the minute they came out as a couple.
I'm pretty sure I saw Eric Estrada in something recently, or maybe he played himself in something recently. It's really bothering me that I can't place him now in something recently. But it's okay. It's not the end of the world.
What?
I can figure it out later. Let's see.
He's a regular voice on the Adult Swim series C-Lab 2021.
I have not watched that.
Let's see.
I did used to watch that. I didn't used to watch that.
He's also a voice in Planes, Fire and Rescue.
It's nothing to me.
He was in a Burger King commercial in 2009.
The Neighbors.
Oh, I didn't watch that.
He played himself on The Neighbors, and I just watched it a few years back, and you should watch it. It's pretty funny. It's a great sitcom. It was like something he played himself, and he plays himself, and it's hilarious. It's a great show.
So the show opens with Carl giving a weird monologue to the camera and then winking, which I did not care for at all. And then we immediately went to what I'm entirely sure was actually NFL footage of a Chicago Bears game. There is a 0% chance that was filmed for the show. They just got rights to air part of the football game.
Maybe they got rights.
It was the 70s. I don't know how rights worked.
The same as they do now, roughly, but.
And then they show this football player getting attacked. Or no, they didn't show the football player getting attacked. They just said it. And then they showed this soldier guy getting attacked. And my note says, well, that's a pretty weird furry.
My first note says, this makes me think of Mike Wazowski, and all I could think was, put that thing back where it came from, or so help me.
Because there was the flute, and then the bird was attacking, but the bird was not, it did not show, like, if it had showed the bird attack and then blood, even though they didn't show the bird attacking, I would have been more okay with it, but they were like, bird attack, shirt ripped in a really sexy pirate way.
Right.
And I was like, okay, so we're talking about furries. Good to know.
It was like the most dramatic non-occurrence. Like, everything was just like, But.
And then we get to some of my favorite dialogue where Carl is explaining what he's supposed to be doing. And he said, I promised Tony I would go there on time with a new hat and a press suit, but I lie a lot.
Someone actually talked about this on their blog. I should have credited them, but I forgot. I was scrolling through stuff.
Yeah.
It was so funny. And I was like, that is definitely probably the best line from the show.
My favorite. There was Carl and Tony were A+ this episode. A+. And then Tony is talking to Ron about Carl still not being there. And Ron starts smoking a pipe for some reason. And Tony's like, I didn't know you smoked. He's like, I don't. It just makes me look distinguished. And he was like, it doesn't. No. And I said that Ron is a pompous douche.
Yeah.
I go back and forth on my feelings on him literally every episode.
I feel like he is the same guy who plays, there's another character actor who, I don't know if he's meant to be a character actor, but he definitely is. He's on, have you watched Good Girls or It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
No, but I've seen a couple episodes of Always Sunny, but like not enough to know.
Guy, I think they call him Squirrel or something. He's actually one of the writers of the show. He's the red hair, and he always plays this like character that's down on his luck. I have to look up his name. But that's exactly who he reminds me of.
He's just the Toby Flenders of this office.
David Hornsby.
No, I know David Hornsby. Yeah, I know him.
That's exactly who he reminds me of. Is he the writer too? Is he the writer, David Hornsby too?
I don't know actually.
Isn't there a David Hornsby writer? I didn't know his name. Sorry, I'm like Googling everything. I know he's like obviously TV writer. He writes. Maybe not. Okay. That's different thing. My brain is just running in circles today, so I apologize. But I do know he did most of the writing on It's Always, well, he was one of the main writers on It's Always Sunny, and probably on Good Girls too. I didn't watch that one as much, so I don't know.
So then Kolchak finally arrives, apparently.
Wait, I have a quote I want to talk about before you move on.
Oh, okay.
When Ron is talking about the time, and he's like, this says it's this time, this says it's this time. He's like, do you want me to call the like time place? And he's like, and Tony is just like, gives him this look like he's a moron. And all I could think about was, I wonder how many people, if they were to watch that today, would be like, that's not real. Like, did you ever call the time place when you were a child?
No, I don't even know. I didn't even realize that that's what he's saying. I literally heard, do you want me to call the time as in time of death? That's what I thought he was saying.
No, you can literally, I think the number is still active, but I haven't tried it in over 20 years. But you can literally just call this number and they would tell you what time it was. It was very similar to like calling the movie theaters.
No, I straight up thought he was talking about Carl's time of death.
Oh, I know he was talking about the time because he was like, this watch says it's this and that says it's this and that says it's this. And he's like, do you want me to call the time? And he's like, I don't need it to be any more specific than that. Like, that's why Tony went off into that little like thing. I laughed so hard at that. I did. I laughed at that and I was like, I wonder how many people are not going to get that nowadays.
I surely did not.
It was really funny. Now continue.
Then Kolchak finally does arrive an hour and 20 minutes late and then immediately leaves again because he hears a homicide over the radio, to which Tony says, if you don't come back, there's going to be a homicide right here, which was funny, except for that I am such a pedantic fuck that my note says, how will there be a homicide if he does not return?
Unless Tony's like, I'm gonna just start shooting the place up.
No, Tony's just gonna kill somebody.
He might kill Ron.
Well, because I was gonna say, if he just kills somebody, is it really homicide because it's not premeditated? But if it's Ron, it's definitely.
It's still. We're not gonna get it. There's a lot of levels of murder.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of levels of murder, but like just a random shooting in a lobby of a hotel out of frustration, I don't know that
it's still homicide. It's probably manslaughter or negligent homicide, depending on what state you're in.
Right, because manslaughter and homicide are not the same like in some
homicide is somebody killing somebody else.
Oh, okay.
It's homicide, suicide. Those are your options.
Got it.
Or natural death.
Homicide as a legal term is not necessarily the same though.
No, that's how they talk about it. But then you talk about murder. Because you don't get convicted of homicide, you are convicted of whatever degree of murder. And there's different in randomly shooting up a place without planning. There's manslaughter, there's all different kinds, and there's different levels of manslaughter in different states.
Yeah.
Negligent homicide is a thing. It's a lot. There's a lot of different levels there.
So Carl goes to where the murder has taken place. And the police chief, Captain Guy, is like, nobody is allowed in the crime scene. So Carl goes into the crime scene anyway, as he does, and just like starts hanging his tape recorder directly in this dude's face as if that's not the most obvious thing in the entire world. I was like,
think of it, Harry Potter, when they tried to use those extendable ears in Order of the Phoenix.
Oh my gosh, sorry. Side note about Harry Potter. I teach 4 different classes, so I decided that I was going to make them as a class take a sorting hat quiz so that I could give them different class colors without just assigning them class colors. But then it was so hard because apparently when you get a bunch of middle school age children together as a collective, they're all Hufflepuffs.
Which is
the most precious thing in the entire world.
That is adorable. I want you to make up a new plural of Hufflepuffs. Hufflepie.
They're
Hufflepies.
Which grade got picked to be the Hufflepuff? Oh, the 5th graders, my favorites. They got picked to be Hufflepuffs.
Because are you Hufflepuff?
Fuck.
What are you?
I'm a Slytherin.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing a double quiz, if you're doing one of those double like quizzes, I'm a Slytherclaw.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I have 3 different Slytherin scarves.
Yeah, it doesn't know what it wants me to be if I do the double quizzes, but when I do a single quiz, it's always Ravenclaw.
And one time I went to the Harry Potter Museum and I got the actual sorting hat from the movie put on my head. And there was a bunch of little kids. And I was like a senior in high school, and all these small children, like 8 years old, were there. And she was like, "Who wants to get sorted?" And I was like, "I do." And I pushed through the children. And so I got up on the
stool. I've waited forever.
I got up on the stool. And she was like, "What do you want it to be?" And I was like, "Slytherin." And this little girl just burst into tears.
That's hilarious.
So Kolchak, once again gets yelled at and gets his film taken away and can't do anything correct.
I think he's a Gryffindor.
Yeah, I
He's
think
pretty
so.
reckless, but he's also, I mean, he's brave, but he's pretty reckless, and
Yeah.
he does care about his friends when it comes to life or death. He doesn't care. He doesn't act like he cares.
Right, but he also like he's not a Hufflepuff because like he doesn't have a lot of friends. Like he isn't
Right.
putting like loyalty as his first foot forward.
He's too reckless to be a Ravenclaw.
Yeah. And
He's he's not really
he's
like,
not ambitious enough to be a Slytherin because if he
yeah,
was, he would just put aside the real story and write the shit that would get him published. So,
exactly.
so he is a Gryffindor.
Yeah. Which is how many Gryffindors are made by default. Hot take.
Yeah, that is everybody's like, I want to be in Gryffindor. Why? Because you're the house that takes the rejects.
Uh, you're not
I mean,
wrong.
let's be real. Let's look at Harry's class. Even just the boys, because we know more about the boys. Neville
Bless his heart.
proved himself in the end. He did prove himself in the end that bravery was something that like
Well, bravery is important.
he grew into bravery.
Yeah.
Ron and Harry, okay, fine. They were kind of forced into it. They didn't really have a choice.
Hermione should have been a Ravenclaw.
Hermione should have been a Ravenclaw. But Hermione really, the daring and the leadership that Gryffindor, Hermione really does have that.
That's true because of her
Like,
leading the
on the surface, she's a Ravenclaw, but I fully get why she's not. But then we get the rest of that class. Seamus Finnegan, Parvati Patel, and Lavender Brown. Dean Thomas, I will give him that in the 7th book and everything that he did during the war. Like, I will give him that he showed.
Well, they have bravery. They're just reckless and they
right.
don't
No. I mean, but daring is like the number one trait of a Gryffindor. So like Dean Thomas and everything that he did, like on the radio and on the run, I will give him that. But those other three, Parvati, Lavender, and Seamus.
Lavender should have been a Hufflepuff.
What the fuck traits do any of them have?
No.
No. Their traits were, we don't have enough to be in the other houses. Like, that's it.
Yeah. That's the default.
I also saw one of those mama said that it was okay TikToks, and it was like, you can't be brave and be in Hufflepuff. And then it was pictures of Cedric Diggory, and it was like, mama said that it was okay.
I love Lucas Graham.
Right.
I know we're getting way off on a tangent, but I need to talk about Lucas Graham for a second. I literally, like, I went to my best friend Austin lives in Dallas, and he was working 9 to 9 when I went and stayed with him one day. And so I just drove aimlessly around Dallas with Lucas Graham's, I think it's his first album, on repeat, because it's the one that has that song. Oh my
7
God.
years.
Yeah, 7 years. I've forgotten everything that I've ever known. He retweeted me because I tweeted that I was driving around Dallas and everyone was missing out, and he retweeted it, and I love him. He just got married.
I also love him. I also just remember the first time I ever saw him perform live on TV, and I was not prepared for what he looked like.
He was supposed to. I also
like,
wasn't.
He's fine. Like, it's not to say that he's like, it's just 0% what I expected. Because at the time, it was 7 years was the only single that was out. And then I saw his face and I go,
he was supposed to perform my birthday week last year. Him and Elton John. Elton John was performing in Philadelphia the same night Lucas Graham was performing here. And I was talking to my friend Zach who lives in Philly, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Didn't matter, couldn't do anything. But it would have been a tough. I probably would have gone Elton John if I had to pick, and if I would have been able to get to Philly for the weekend.
Are you ready to hear what the last concert I went to was?
Yes.
Shawn Mendes.
My friend Lance named his dog Shawn Mendes, and he had
I saw Shawn Mendes live in Bangkok.
My last concert.
It was
really good, right? I really like Shawn Mendes. I think my last concert was the tribute to Woody Guthrie at Town Hall, because at my office, Woody Guthrie's one of our biggest writers, and this Land Is Your Land turned 90 years last year. and so they did a big tribute to him.
I just
And
straight
so,
lied to your face. Because that was not my last concert, because I forgot that I went to a concert this summer.
You went to what?
I went to a concert this summer and I
Yeah, you sent it to me.
Yep.
I forgot.
It was Fits in the Tantrums.
I do not know them.
I have to say I only knew like 2 songs before I went, but I was like, whatever, like it's a summer concert. It's an outdoor like concert.
Yeah.
One of my favorite places to see shows. They put on a hell of a show. Like I've never seen a group with so much energy. It was amazing.
You know, one of my favorite concerts, again, I know we're tangenting. Is that an adjective? I'm gonna make that a verb.
Okay.
And I got to see Weezer and Plain White Tee. Weezer and Panic at the Disco in New Orleans at Champion Square, and the guy who opened for them was he sang Cecilia and the Satellites was his new song, Andrew McMahon. And he was originally, I loved him because he was originally in Jack's Mannequin, and they sing Spinning, and he did Spinning acoustic. I don't know if it was acoustic or just solo at this show, and it was one of the best shows ever. And I saw William Ryan Key from Yellow Card. He's gone solo now. I saw him at a tiny place in Brooklyn. Also, one of the last concerts I saw. Anyways, we should probably get back to Kolchak, but I'm ready for more.
So then Kolchak leaves the murder scene and goes back to the hotel and runs into Tony. And we meet some new characters. Tony's introducing Carl to all these people. And there's this girl who works in the Air Force. And she's there to talk about women in the Air Force. And the thing is, as she's talking, both Tony and the male Air Force officer continue to interrupt her and not let her finish a single thing she's saying. And I'm literally writing women in the Air Force, LOL, while being mansplained. That was my note. And I was in the middle of writing it when Tilly, her name's Pippa and the character's name is Tilly, and I just put them together in my brain. So Tilly goes, if it's so great to have a woman in the Air Force, why don't you let her finish a sentence? And I was like, oh, thank you.
Yes, let her talk.
And then Pepe Torres walks up and is being a douche like most men. And I just wrote, what a suit, Mr. Torres. That pink suit was something else.
Yes.
Then unfortunately, our beautiful Air Force lady gets unalived.
With these crazy ass birds.
Which I thought it was happening in her apartment, but then the next thing I know, she's in a park.
Yeah, I thought it was like in her hotel or something.
Yeah.
It was not.
Which I guess they did say later that she got kidnapped from the hotel and then murdered.
I don't understand these birds deal.
I don't really either, especially when
kidnapping her.
The girls. Those girls.
The Charlie's Angels. I've decided they're Charlie's Angels too.
Yeah, but so the Charlie's Angels are wearing bird costumes and violently attacking people.
But it seems like they just like come up on them and then they attack them and then they run away. And so I'm like, who do you decide you're going to kidnap and who you're not kidnapping?
I was then very confused later when Kolchak goes to the murder scene and the bird is still there, but I guess they haven't set the heart on the right step yet. I don't fucking know.
That was the other thing I didn't understand. The steps, why do they matter? Is that something that really matters? Do you know?
Yes, because it has to do with the way the Aztecs used the pyramids to tell time.
Okay, that's fair. I
couldn't tell you the actual significance, but I do know that there is a significance because their ritual sacrifices were always in the tops of those stepped temple things.
That makes sense. That's fine. I didn't understand. And I was like, I don't know why they keep talking about stairs or why this has any meaning.
So Carl gets knocked out, and when he wakes up, the he is very aggressively rude to the EMT, which I found personally offensive.
The first time I watched it, I thought he fell off a roof. I didn't notice he was on stairs. Then I realized I didn't watch very closely, apparently, the first time.
And Carl comes back with my favorite Carl Kolchak insult, you dum dum.
He's so witty.
So witty. So he gets into a fight, goes back to the hotel, tries to get there before the police, doesn't get there before the police, decides to get into one of his little costume sneak around things that he likes to do, and then wouldn't you know it, Tony catches him in costume. A lot of my notes are just like to tell me what is happening because I didn't find the middle part of this episode very interesting. But so then Carl is running away from the police officer and he goes to the basement of the hotel and he finds this beautiful Aztec painting. And I wrote, why does the hotel have an Aztec painting in a room full of what looks like radioactive waste? And then I said, oh, right, because there's also a dead body here. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, they were a little heavy-handed. So.
Yeah. So Carl gets rescued from the room where he's locked in with the mummy from hotel security. And then what's her name?
Jones.
Yeah, Tilly Jones. Basically saves his ass, and then he decides to repay her by interrogating her about the Aztec mummy. And it turns into like, why does this guy have a job here, Mr. Pepe Torres? And my only note is, I hate men.
That is the truest thing. And uber rich people, because he's only here because he has a lot of money and he's a man. Those are the reasons. He's not good at it, I would imagine. I know we didn't see him lead, but based on what I know about him, he sucks.
Yeah, based on what he said and what Tilly said about him, I have no faith in him. And then even Kolchak is disgusted with the print of the carpet, which means you know it's bad because Kolchak has no style.
He, bless his heart, he does not.
Although I do kind of love that suit. I feel like now you could wear that suit and it would be back in style.
Well, 50 years later, bringing it back. But I will say, I do love.
Even 50 years later, apparently I'm that old. Because one of my friends from like middle school, elementary school, we were really good friends. When we were like 13 or 14 or something, it was her sister's birthday party, but her mom had just had a baby. So I got invited to be the one to help her run the birthday party because her mom couldn't like get up and walk around, which was really exciting because people weren't allowed at the house because her mom just had a baby. So I got to hold this baby when he was only 3 days old. He started high school yesterday.
Well, I was the
first. No, I'm sorry. By started high school, I mean started his senior year of high school yesterday. Yeah.
I feel that. I was the first one to hold my little sister when she was born. Like the doctors gave her to me before my mom, which makes no sense. That was a bad decision. I was 10, but they did it. And she just started her second year of college.
Yeah. And so. I was like, his mom posted on Facebook like that it was his senior day or his first day of senior year. And I go, it's honestly quite rude that you just made me feel that old.
That is fair.
Oh, and then we go to the Kendall Long scene.
I thought the same thing.
Because in yesterday's episode of Bachelor in Paradise, for some reason, we get a cutaway of Kendall explaining how ducks and birds have sex. And I was like, no wonder Joe doesn't want to be with you anymore.
Look.
Which is honestly a dig at myself as well, because I've talked about shit like that on dates before.
I mean, same.
So this man is on a rant about taxidermy and how the media talks about taxidermy and how they're not just stuffed animals, and like he is going off.
I'm here for his rant. If I was a taxidermist, I would be him.
Yeah. And then we find out that the feathers of the bird that attacked Kolchak are parrot feathers, which I said that does make sense geographically and color colorly, that's not a word, but
We're creating words tonight.
it makes sense. But in order to get this information from this taxidermy man, Kolchak must buy a taxidermied animal. So Kolchak decides to buy the cheapest animal, which is this butt ugly fucking rat possum thing.
Yes. Which is like all of the little rats. What was that? Was it in The Other Guys? Was that the movie where they had, have you seen that movie with Steve Carell? I don't know if it was The Other Guys, but Steve Carell is like a taxidermist and he has these little like rats in a cardboard box and he changes their professions. It's not relevant, but that's what that made me think of.
Yeah, it was not cute. So then he goes back to the office to tell Tony about his story and everything. And Tony has his best moment of the entire series where he makes up a theory about what is happening and what kind of magical supernatural bullshit is going on, and like in the style of all of the other stories Tony or Carl has said over the last 18 episodes of the show. And it is my favorite thing. Because included in this rant of them fighting is Carl saying there's a mummy in the basement and a dummy in a key staff position, and Tony saying that if we're guilty by having a dummy in a key staff position, count him in.
Yes. I was like, ooh, burn.
So Kolchak retaliates by sticking the rat in Ron's desk.
Poor Ron. Oh, God bless. He is like, he's just like David Hornsby. Shit on every corner. It doesn't matter.
So Carl goes to research more Aztec stuff, and he goes to this one guy who, the first guy he talks to apparently knew jack shit. And I said, this guy is either really dumb or really shady. And then based on the fact that we never returned to that, I'm going to have to go with dumb.
Yes.
I then made the connection. Oh, the cop dies, and I finally made the connection that everyone who was dead had some kind of medal.
I did not make that connection because I was trying to figure out everything else that was happening. So
luckily I had a baseline knowledge of Aztec myths that you did not, so a lot of what you were confused by I just let happen. And to be fair, I'm not like a genius or anything, but Doctor Who season 1 of the first Doctor, William Hartnell, has a really, really good episode about the Aztecs, and I watched it for the first time when I was probably like 11. So of course, like at that stage, you're like, let me know everything about the Aztecs because this was so cool.
See, so I do that still. About everything I watch or listen to, but I started with Christopher Eccleston, so that was
I had watched all
it's on my list to go back and rewatch the originals.
We're at 58 years of the show, and I've seen everything that exists.
I haven't, so I started at the Ninth Doctor with Christopher Eccleston, and I haven't finished Jodie's. What's her
name? The last season is a fucking pile of garbage.
I watched most of her first season, and then I haven't caught up.
There are individual stories of hers that I like, but for the most part, it is a giant continuity destroying trash bag on fire.
Have you watched Broadchurch?
No.
You need to go watch her on that. She's really, really great on that.
The thing is, everybody said that, but then I never watched it, and then Doctor Who made me hate her so much that I don't know if I can watch it.
I watched that first, and she's definitely better on Broadchurch than on Doctor Who.
The thing is, David Tennant and Olivia Colman, 10 out of 10. But I fucking can't.
Give it a try. It scared me a little bit, but it was all murdery, so I'm much less scared.
I do like murdery. Then I figured out that Pepe was volunteering.
I never figured that out. I did not pay very much attention, I guess, at the end.
Yeah, you were too busy trying to figure out if this guy was Pete Wentz's father or not, and I was listening to what he said.
I listened the first time around, and then the second time around, I half listened.
Which the first time around you didn't know anything about the Aztecs, so the
Yes.
second time around would have been the time to listen to it.
Yes, exactly. I went backwards. Welcome back.
And then we have a scene where I realized that I'm a crazy person because Carl was looking through Tony's phone book to call this one guy because he needed to know what building in Chicago had the most stairs. And I was like, do people just not casually know weird facts about buildings in their city like that?
No. Well, it depends on the city. I'm learning weird facts around New York City.
Right, but like you've only lived in New York for 4 years. Carl's clearly been in Chicago for a while.
I don't know weird facts about buildings in Louisiana.
You don't. Your city in Louisiana is not a city. It's a town of 100 people.
Well, I lived in New Orleans for 3 years, and like my current fun fact about buildings in the city is that I live right down the road from the lipstick building where Robert Murdoch worked. Isn't that his name?
I know that the tallest building in the entire country of Thailand changed within the last 18 months, 2 years to 18 months, something like that, because it changed while I was there because the building
That's impressive for them.
A building that was in construction is now the tallest building in the country. And
I think they were working on that building when you came home a couple of months back. And
yeah. Well, because they had just finished it when I came home in 2019 because they were building it when my parents came to visit me in 2018 and I was showing them stuff about how it had finished. So it was sometime in 2019 when the tallest building in the entire country like got changed, which was only difficult for me because I had a lesson about tallest buildings in the world and I had to change my PowerPoints because the tallest building in Thailand wasn't the same anymore.
See, that's why my knowledge makes no sense because I don't have to teach it to anybody else. So I just learned the most random facts about the most random things. And then I'm like, let me tell you everything about this one specific thing.
See, I've realized that I have borderline photographic memory, but my short-term memory is literally non-existent. Like I will forget in the middle of a sentence what I was saying, but if you ask me like what someone was wearing 23 years ago, I could probably tell you down to their toenail polish.
See, I do not. I am not playing with a full deck of cards. Both of my grandparents have Alzheimer's on both sides. And I have a little bit of mental health issues on top of my anxiety. So I have a very terrible memory.
My thing I've learned recently, and by learned, I was talking to my friend and we are talking about like when you see memes on the internet that like describe mental health issues and you realize that like, oh, that's not normal that I feel that way. And I was like, I figured out that I have 3 undiagnosed mental health conditions on top of the 3 that I have diagnosed. Like, I mean, I know that neurodivergent people have compounded issues a lot, but like 6 is a little excessive.
I think I'm up to 3. I think I have 2 diagnosed and 1 undiagnosed.
Yeah. So I got a solid 6, baby.
You are killing it. 1 more, you've got a touchdown. So
no, 6 is a touchdown. Then there's the extra point.
Well, you got your extra point, but 7 is my lucky number. So
and
aim for the best.
Then I fell asleep for a minute because the flute music they were playing sounded just like my meditation music that I fall asleep to. And I was like, oh, hold on, wake up. We gotta finish the episode. And so Carl goes to see Pepe, and Pepe is like, nah, fam, my life would be garbage. I'd rather be dead. And I was like, oh, that is so depressing.
Yeah.
He's like, what? You wouldn't rather be dead than be a bag boy at a grocery store? And I was like, you need therapy.
Yeah, like, I mean, I need therapy, but even so, I know I would rather be broke than dead.
Right. Like, I was like,
so
you poor baby. And then they walk into the middle of the football field, and for once ever in Kolchak, there was a camera, like, zoom that I was insanely impressed by. They did this, like, really beautiful close-up shot of Eric Estrada's face, and I was like, so you can do camera work. You just choose not to.
They did some decent shadow work with their cameras in the beginning, but it was like first 3 episodes and they were like,
Yeah,
we're done.
exactly. The first 3 episodes when the show was still intentionally scary.
Yeah.
Oh, and then the dead Aztec god finally wakes up, and I go, oh, hey, that's what I look like when I wake up in the morning.
I know. Y'all didn't see me without my makeup on. Mary Kate did when I came on. Not far off.
And then Kolchak like thinks he's hallucinating or some shit. He almost swore. Did you hear that? I literally was cracking up. I was like, oh my God, that is not ABC TV approved.
Speaking of not TV approved, when Pepe starts talking, I don't know if we're to this scene yet. Pepe starts talking about like, that really turned me on or whatever. And I was like, who is this show for?
Yeah, no,
this was no longer for children.
This was before he went outside. Yeah, he was like, I've never been more turned on in my life. And I was like,
your Charlie's Angels just went away. That's when I decided they were the Charlie's Angels in this scenario.
Yeah, and then the Aztec guy tries to kill Kolchak and he goes, holy, and I don't know if he stopped because he realized they could not retake that shot or if there was some really good audio engineer because that was way too close.
Yeah.
And then he realizes he's not hallucinating. His watch was just slow because Ron never called the time guy.
We never called time. We didn't know.
And then my last note is actually about the epilogue speech when Kolchak says that he will not be alive in 52 years for the millennium, and maybe you will be. And I said, unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, so I also had a comment about that because for some reason, I know this show happened in 75. I understand that's when it was released. My brain decided it was released in 1950 when he said 52 years. And so he said 52 years from now, I won't be at the new millennium. And I was like, okay, it's the 50s. He's probably in his 40s at this point, maybe early 50s, probably 40s. I don't actually know what age he is right now. And I was like, I could see him not make it to the millennium. And I was like, this was 1975. He's gonna make it to the new millennium.
No, in 1975, Darren McGavin was 53 years old.
So
he would not. But he wasn't talking about the English calendar's new millennium. He was talking about the Aztec calendar's new millennium, which they had already said earlier in the episode was 2026.
I see. That makes sense.
So 52 years past the time he's 53, not going to be alive. Like 105 is pushing it.
Justin Long's grandmother is.
Yeah, 105 is pushing it when you don't chase vampires every week.
True. Mm-hmm.
So, 2026 is in 5 years from right now. And I unfortunately don't think I'm dying in the next 5 years. So I will unfortunately be alive if there is to be a reincarnation of an Aztec sun god.
It's not in my 5-year plan to be dead before 2026.
Yeah. It's also not in my 5-year plan to have to deal with reincarnated fictional gods.
That is also true. I do not want to deal with that. But however, in 2026, I would like to start a rumor about it and stir things up in the world.
Ooh, that would be fun. Remember how freaked out people got about the Mayan calendar?
That's what I was just about to say. I would like this to be the next Mayan calendar, and I would be happy to start it.
Perfect.
Cause some drama.
I will set a reminder in my calendar for some random day in 2026.
If we did some math, we could figure out what actual day it is, but God knows I'm not doing that. So.
Whoa, there was a shit ton of goofs in this episode. Sorry, I just pulled up.
A new drink.
I just pulled this up. There's 11 goofs.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a new drink for that.
And 2 trivia. All right, get your drink because this is
I thought about pulling out my drinks before we started recording all of them. And then it was the 80s today and all of my drinks would have been sweltering.
This morning I was getting ready for work and it was 60 degrees and literally hurricane level winds and rain. And I was like, it's the first day of work. I have to look nice.
See, it was
So I wore
Oh,
boots that have a heel so that my pant legs would not be long enough to be in the puddles. And then I stood for 6 hours. And I've never hated my life more.
I'm gonna buy some slippers for work. That's what my next move
I
is.
wore slippers all the time in my classroom in Thailand, and I don't think they're in dress code here.
Well, I keep taking my shoes off at work and just wearing socks, so I figure I should maybe buy some slippers to keep at the office.
All right, our goofs. Errors made by characters. At the very end, just before the fade to black, the camera pans to the mummy's head and the actor opens his eyes and blinks. Oops.
Whoops.
The Air Force officers that Kolchak is introduced to at the hotel never remove their hats while indoors, despite not being under arms. This is a serious uniform violation.
I did know that. They had a big thing that came out a few years back when people were taking, maybe this is a Southern thing, I don't know. People were taking a lot of military, like, spousal pictures, and they were trying to, like, wear their husband's hats and all this stuff, and I learned all the military rules without wanting to.
Well, the thing that in like is weird about that to me is that they made a big deal about Carl taking his hat off to talk to them, but then they did not take their hats off.
Well, my thing is, like, if it wasn't an we wear our hats when we're at arms thing, I could see it because, like, if you're in uniform, you're in uniform.
Yeah,
and
but
so, like,
there's rules about how and when and where you wear the uniform.
Right. That's why I'm saying, like, if it wasn't, like, if it specifically wasn't because you're not supposed to wear your hat indoors anyways right now because you're not at arms, then I would be like, okay, they're in uniform, they have to wear the whole uniform.
Yeah.
But I agree, knowing that they aren't supposed to wear their hats anyways.
Yeah. But also, like, you just shouldn't wear your hat indoors, like, especially at that time.
Yes.
And they are not, like, actively.
Or in the South now.
Yeah. All right, a factual error. The soldier killed at the beginning is said to be a staff sergeant, but he is wearing sleeve insignia of a specialist first class. Also, he was supposed to have been awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, and that chest ribbon is not present.
I never would have noticed.
I did notice that the medal that they said he got received was not on his chest, but I didn't look close enough at the insignia on his arm to know that it was wrong.
Yeah,
Which
I
honestly,
in the military, and I still don't know what.
Well, honestly, it's just because of how high in the military my uncle was and the work, and like, because my uncle, he was in the military, but now he's retired, but he's still contracted with them to do like transition services for military people retiring and everything. So he still works with a lot of people who are really high up. So I've seen a lot of really decorated sleeves. I couldn't tell you, like, if you showed me a bunch of patches and was like, what is this? I'd be like, the Navy. Errors in geography. Early in the story, Kolchak is supposedly driving in Chicago, but he's plainly on Melrose Avenue in Los Angeles, passing the famous RKO globe on the southwest corner of the Paramount lot.
I know a lot of things. I'm a very smart person normally. I do not know anything about geography. 0%.
I'm a huge geography nerd.
Did you notice?
No, but it's because I've never been to LA, so I don't really know what it is.
I've only been once, but
I've never been to LA or Chicago. So like,
I've never been to Chicago.
So like a random street, I would not necessarily notice. And I guess like they're saying the RKO globe is really famous, but like that would require me to care.
You know what else is more famous in my mind? The Walt Disney Concert Hall globe. That's where we had dinner in LA, and it is top notch.
Incorrectly regarded as goofs. Kolchak is asking Vincenzo to sign a voucher for the taxidermy specimen he bought to get the information, saying it cost $24.95. The price tag on the item reads $19.95. On sale.
He marked it up.
Yeah, that's not really a goof. That's just Kolchak trying to get more money.
Yeah. I will say in that same scene with the taxidermy, when he was telling him it was a parrot, I should have mentioned this earlier, I forgot. And he like brought up this tiny parrot.
That was
like,
not a parrot.
This is not, what is it?
I mean, it was in the he was correct about it being in like the cockatiel parrot family, but that was not actually a parrot.
Well, if it was the Aztecs, it should have been a Quetzal first of all, and it was the right colors, but I don't think.
Well, but a Quetzal is also an Aztec word, not necessarily an English word. And then he was talking about Quetzalcoatl, like when he was talking about the myth.
It was just so funny when he brought out this tiny bird. He was like, "This is the feather, where the feather's from," and he's like, "That did not attack me." Anyways, continue.
Factual errors. The days and dates are continually inconsistent. The professor's comment is that 2027 is 52 years from now, which sets the story in 1975. The narration says that the football player was killed on Monday, September 22nd, which was correct for 1975. The soldier was killed on Wednesday, September 9th, which is incorrect for both 1975 and any year when the 22nd is on a Monday. At the end of the episode, when Kolchak looks at his watch, it shows Monday the 25th, which is incorrect for both 1975, the story in general, and is also 4 days before the date given for the death of the soldier.
There is 0% of me that would have noticed that.
I have noticed before that they just say shit and the dates never make sense, but like the specificity of how badly they fucked that up would not have noticed.
I think my problem is like, I knew there was like, at the beginning, I stopped listening to dates because I knew there was so much math involved to get it to the right date that I just didn't listen to any date they mentioned because I was like, it's not going to make sense to me. It doesn't matter.
Factual errors. Kolchak talks about Venus appearing at 12:10 a.m. However, the earliest that Venus can ever rise in Chicago is 3 hours and 51 minutes before sunrise. And the earliest the sun ever rises in Chicago is at 5:15 a.m. on a midsummer's day. So Venus is never visible in Chicago at 12:10 a.m.
Fun fact about Venus. They say, you're going to know this better than I do, but they say that's your, whatever number that is your love. Venus is in that love time. You know what I'm saying? Can you make that clearer?
Well, Venus is the planet that rules love. So in your tarot, whichever like house Venus is in is the astrological sign that more closely represents your romantic patterns than your sun sign.
Right. So Venus is not
and also whatever house Venus is in are the things that you care most about. So like if Venus is in, say, the 6th house, whichever the 6th house represents, which I think is about finance, but I don't remember off the top of my head, that would mean that you find love through material things.
So fun fact, Venus is not in any of my houses. So yeah, call
that
me.
Means you have the gift of celibacy.
Yeah. Killing it in the love game.
Now I'm curious. I know what sign is Venus in my my Venus is in Pisces, which means that I am a sad bitch for love, even though I'm an Aries. So, you know, I apparently have never, I know, I don't, thank you.
So I actually changed my chart since we last talked about it because I had my time of birth wrong.
Oh, okay.
I was actually born at 12:30 in the afternoon. I went to the hospital at 3 a.m. in the middle of a storm. So Venus is actually in Sagittarius and house 11 for me. I am a Scorpio sun, Gemini moon, and Aquarius rising now.
Venus is in my 7th house.
That's the one I wanted it to be in, because isn't that the good one?
Yeah. Venus in the 7th house represents strongly felt connection to partnerships and others. Relationships are important to you. You also feel inclined to be young at heart. Yeah, all that stuff. Yes, Venus.
Mine is, it's in your 11th house, meaning that for you, love is often expressed in social status. That's not really true. Including platonic and casual friends, along with your hopes, wishes, and dreams, which means I care about friends and hopes, wishes, and dreams more than dating, which is indeed true.
Yeah, I just want everybody to love me and I want to have fun and I don't want to grow up. I have Peter Pan syndrome.
I don't need you to love me. I need to love what I do. And I
Yeah.
need to meet all of my dreams, even if they're unreachable.
Continuity. When Kolchak is telling Vincenzo about prior murders, he states one set occurred 52 years before. When Vincenzo repeats that back to him, he says 53 years instead. That's not really a continuity error. That's just Vincenzo doesn't listen. Factual errors. The fall of the Aztec Empire was not in 1507 as cited in the episode. It was actually in 1521, which would throw their whole calendar off because that is a solid 14 years later.
Their calendar that they already don't have right.
Errors in geography. The dispatcher announces that a 187 has occurred. California Penal Code Section 187 covers homicide. The Penal Code section for Illinois, the setting location of the series, is not the same.
Yes, it's different in every state.
And then errors in geography. As Kolchak is driving down the street, a Union 76 service station is seen in the background. Union 76 never had locations in the Chicagoland area.
Things I would never know.
Yeah, I would not know what gas stations existed in the 70s.
Or in Chicago.
All right, trivia. The Aztec headdress worn by Eric Estrada was originally used in the 1947 movie Captain from Castile, worn by the Aztec ambassador Kakamatsin. This episode, combined with episode Legacy of Terror, this is episode Legacy of Terror. What?
Say it again.
It says this episode was combined with Legacy of Terror, but this episode was Legacy of Terror.
Yeah.
Very confused. Well, anyway, 2 episodes were combined together to make a movie called Demon and the Mummy, which I'm guessing means that it was the succubus and the mummy, and those 2 were together.
Probably.
Generally, Aztec and Maya human sacrifices were captured warriors from neighboring cities or losers of the sacred ball game played before religious ceremonies to choose sacrifice victims. Sacrifices were performed to guarantee that the gods would continue to send rain, make the sun rise every day, guarantee fertility and a good harvest. I kind of already said. The people of Mexico are descendants of Aztecs and Mayans, yet they are erroneously called Hispanics and Latinos. But Hispanic is a word which means originates from Spain, and Latino would imply originating from a Latin country, and those are the Vatican, Italy, and those speaking Latin-based languages, France, Spain, and the like. At best, the people of Mexico are Hispanophones, meaning Spanish-speaking, but that is not their native language. Spanish is the language from Spain, and the Spaniards colonized all of Central America and most of South America. To be true to their native origins, the correct appellation would be indeed, and like in the show, would be, no, would indeed, and like in the show, be Mayans and Aztecs. Which is true, but it's also kind of exclusionary in the sense that in modern Mexico, there are many people who have ancestors that come both from native peoples and the Spanish, and to say that those people are not Hispanic is kind of,
yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, we're not pro colonizing, erasing native cultures, but when we're talking 500 years ago, there's no longer many people who don't have bits of both in their past.
Right. Mm-hmm. Which makes sense.
Eric Estrada would soon star in the TV series Chips, also produced by Cy Shermark. I was looking at the word Shermark.
Yeah.
Red Chips. Chips, yes. So this was actually right before he did Chips.
Didn't they remake Chips into a movie or something?
They did, and it still starred Eric Estrada.
Oh, I thought it starred Dax Shepard.
It did. So obviously at this point, Eric Estrada and Larry, can't think of his last name, Larry Wilcox, who were in the TV show, they were too old to obviously be playing their characters. So Michael Pena and Dax Shepard were playing their characters, but Eric Estrada and Larry Wilcox were both still in the movie.
Gotcha. I just looked up and I see that. I haven't actually seen it yet, but that's how I know about Chips, because of Dax Shepard. And I think that's where he and Kristen Bell met. Because also the guy who was on Veronica Mars is like their BFF, and I think he was in it too.
Jason Dohring?
No. No. The other guy. Ryan Hansen. And Adam Brody's in it too. There's a lot of people I like in this show. I should probably go watch the movie.
Oh, Ryan Hansen. Yeah, Dick.
He's like BFFs with
Dick
them.
Casablancas.
Mm-hmm.
I started watching the new Veronica Mars.
Have you finished it?
No.
Okay.
Because I got through 4 episodes, mostly because those were the only 4 that were on the plane. But also because when I was younger and I watched Veronica Mars, I idolized Veronica. And watching it as an adult, I think she is a toxic narcissist, and I could not continue watching it. I wanted to punch her in the face.
She is. Hard. I didn't watch it until the past couple of years, is when I first started watching Veronica Mars. I'd never seen it before.
Oh yeah, I watched it when it was on, like, live.
I didn't know it existed. I watched the movie. I had a bachelorette party for my friend Carrie, who got married in Dallas. And
you got married in Dallas?
No. We went to the bachelorette party in Dallas. We kidnapped her and took her to Dallas.
Got it. Okay.
Watched it at the hotel while we were figuring out what we were doing for dinner. Other than that, I'd never seen it. So I've watched it. You should finish the new episodes, even though you don't want to. You should.
I mean, I will eventually because I'm a completionist, but like I'm angry because honestly, Logan deserves better.
Have you watched iZombie?
No.
They have a lot of the same cast. It's by the same writer as Veronica Mars. You should watch it too.
Is Jason Dohring in it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well then I'll watch it. I'll do anything.
You know, he's a Scientologist.
I mean, he's in Hollywood, so like unsurprised. Hurt, but unsurprised. But like, he's one of those few people that like, in my mind, he is Logan. Like,
yeah. He definitely is. I don't know that he came.
There's a lot of actors that I can separate their characters, and like I'm like fully aware that they're just acting and they're not this character in real life, and their personalities are really, really different, and it's fine. I don't believe that he's a different person, but like that's mostly because I don't want to believe that he's a different person.
Yeah, you should definitely watch iZombie. I think he's not till the 3rd season, but it does have a lot of the same cast in that show and the same writer, so it's really good.
Oh, also weirdly, sorry, my friend who's obsessed with wrestling just tweeted and I saw it and it reminded me of the fact that The Miz is going to be on Dancing with the Stars too.
So I haven't watched his season, I guess, but so this is like, I have the weirdest random coincidences when I go back and listen to podcasts. So when I say listening, I've been binging Sinisterhood, which is an excellent true crime podcast. Heather is a lawyer. I aim to be her. She's amazing. And they're in Dallas, so they're Southern. She's a lawyer, right up my alley. And I've gone through like 95 episodes in 3 weeks. And I listen to it all day at work and while I'm at home. And maybe 4 weeks. It's maybe been a month. But still, it's been a lot. So I was looking at the Dancing with the Stars, and I just rewatched the very first season of Real World. And then she mentioned today on the podcast I listened to, which was like April 2020, about The Miz, and they were talking about the Real World, and then I looked up the Dancing with the Stars cast, and he was on there, and I was like, I have no idea who this is or what's happening, but everything lined up. I'll watch it one day.
I mean, I know him from wrestling, not from the real world.
Oh, that's true too. Him and his, as I was reading, him and his wife both do wrestling. I don't know anything about wrestling. I watched boxing as a child.
Oh no, I was a big WWE girl when I was a child. Back when it was still WWF, and then
Yeah.
World Wildlife Foundation freaked out. But I used to literally like just when like my earliest tweets from like 15 years ago when I got a Twitter were things like, "I can't wait for Triple H to leave Stephanie McMahon for me." Like I was that girl.
We used to tweet when I first got a Twitter. I was in high school. We used to tweet when that song, it was the Black Eyed Peas song. Gotta be like, ooh, night's gonna be a good.
That song came out when you were in high school?
I think so. Is that the one? It was like freshman year. So if it, because you would have still been in high school when it came out too. It may have been.
That's why I decided I needed to look it up.
But whenever, maybe not that song.
No, you're right. It did come out in when I was in high school because the Lil Wayne remix, the No Ceilings, I Got a Feeling, was one of the songs that I played when I was driving around in my car in my senior year of high school, when I somehow decided that I would not listen to any music unless Young Money Records made it. So like if
Cash Money.
No, Young Money. Like
Cash Money was Lil Wayne's record company.
No. Young Moolah Baby. It was Young Money. It was Nicki Minaj, Lil Wayne. That it might not have been their actual name, but they called themselves Young Money.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know shit about your side of the music. I just know that Young Money.
Well, they also started in New Orleans, so.
Well, but like when back in like 2009, 2010, when Lil Wayne, Drake, Nicki Minaj, like
yeah, they were all under Cash Money before Universal bought them out.
They all of their collabs and everything, they called themselves as a group. Like when Bedrock and all that stuff, it didn't come out as solo artists, it came out as Young Money Presents.
That makes sense.
And so
I bet that was a label under Cash Money.
Yeah. So if Young Money didn't make it, I didn't listen to it. And I would like to say I'm ashamed of that point in my life, but I'm not. I can still rap every single word to a Millie with no shame.
Oh my gosh, that song is insane. But we would tweet. There was like 5 of us. Every time we heard this song on the radio, we would just tweet the radio station was on. That was how we started Twitter. We were very cool, in case you didn't know.
I mean, I had anime hair, listened to German rock and gangster rap, and that was and nothing else. Literally German punk rock and Lil Wayne.
I had bass speakers in my car.
Oh, and I drove a station wagon while doing this.
See, I did not drive a station wagon, but I did drive a 99 Camry that was white, very grandma car with my bass speakers.
I drove a candy apple red Ford Taurus, like the station wagon model of the Taurus, with the back seat facing out the back window, and we called it the Swagger Wagon.
Did everyone sing that Candy Apple Red song to you? That country
Absolutely
song?
not, because we did not listen to country music.
I would have.
Like I said, we listened to all
Young
pop
Money.
punk and Lil Wayne, and that's it.
I did listen to a lot of pop punk. I still listen to a lot of pop punk, let's be real.
I was talking about when I saw 303 in concert.
I've seen them twice.
I've seen them 3 times.
I love 303. They have a TikTok now. You should follow them if you don't.
Oh, I do. Don't worry. I do. But oh no, because we were talking about so the Bills stadium is the Highmark Stadium, because Highmark is the part of Blue Cross that exists in Buffalo. And my dad made a joke about how that he's glad they call it Highmark, because I couldn't handle another Blue Cross arena, because the arena in Rochester is called the Blue Cross Arena. That's where I graduated college. And I was like, oh, Blue Cross. That's the last place I saw 303. My mom's like, what the fuck? And I was like, yeah, I went to, it was called Jingle Jam. And it was like one of those radio like Christmas concerts with like 8 like random.
303 was there?
Yeah, it was 303. B.O.B. Sean Kingston, Cody Simpson.
It's a Christmas lineup.
Who was it who sang? Oh man, you have to remember. No, I can't remember. Oh, Neon Trees. That's who it was. I was like trying to remember who existed in 2010.
Love Neon Trees.
Yeah.
To this day, they are my go-to, but I've never seen them live.
Yeah, no, it was Neon Trees, 303, Sean Kingston, like, because it was like those radio stations that are like pop radio stations and they do like weird eclectic mix of everything. And like me and my friend, we were freshmen in college. So obviously we got ridiculously shit-faced and then went to this concert and it was the greatest day of my life.
I was sober for both of my 303 ones. I saw them at ULM and at Tech.
See, the first time I saw them live, I did not get drunk because I was 14.
I did get
16. I was 16.
Pretty wasted in Shreveport at a Miranda Lambert concert that I don't really remember.
I was 16 and it was Warped Tour, and so I couldn't have been too drunk because I was there for 14 hours.
I also never went to Warped Tour. It is the biggest sadness in my life. I wouldn't say regret. I couldn't go. I had no way of getting there. I had no money.
Warped Tour 2008, my dude. I saw Gym Class Heroes, 303, Katy Perry, Mayday Parade, All Time Low, The Main.
Mayday Parade has a new song out.
Do they?
It's pretty good. I heard it. This job I'm applying for, one of the things I'll be doing is curating playlists for books that I'm reading, and they're for young adults. And so I was like, I gotta know what the kids listen to these days. So I started.
They probably don't listen to Mayday Parade anymore.
And
honestly, this is what you do. You just find Spotify playlists that are TikTok songs.
Ooh, that's a good one. I need to do that. I listen to the new music playlist on Apple Music and Spotify.
Because TikTok songs are where you find the music that's not new, but kids are like weirdly attached to it.
Fly Me to the Moon had a good run. That's one of our songs in my office.
And on that note, you should probably stop watching this TikTok or this YouTube video and go watch some TikToks because they will take up way less of your time. Except for let's be real, this podcast is probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and you will spend that long on TikTok,
if not longer.
No, I've been watching the clock. We're pretty good. We're not over.
No, I meant watching TikTok longer.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, for sure. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter and honestly TikTok, but I don't post anything on TikTok, so probably don't. But they're all at EMKAY_superstar. You
can follow me everywhere, including TikTok. I also don't post. At CECloud13. I am private on Instagram, but you're welcome to follow me. I just had my information stolen last year and people tried to create profiles of me, which makes no sense. I don't post anything. And so I made it private for now, but you're welcome to follow me. I'll approve if you have other followers that are more than.
I think some of my students' parents have stalked me on social media because I came into school today and I introduced myself and one of the kids said, "You don't look like your picture," and I don't know what picture they're looking at.
Do you have like a class, like a badge picture?
No, that we haven't taken those yet.
Yeah,
so, they definitely found me. I knew for a fact one parent already found me and I did not add them back on Facebook, but also none of my social media is private because I just don't care that much. Like I don't post anything that I would have worries about people seeing. Like I don't.
I don't post anything ever, first of all.
Right.
I do post sometimes. I did post on Twitter recently. Because Harry Potter and the Cursed Child is coming back to Broadway on my birthday.
We're posting about Broadway on Twitter this week.
Yeah, I do that sometimes. But they were like,
you were like live tweeting something you watched one day, and I was like, no, I haven't watched this. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I haven't. I only talked about Harry Potter. Just on my Twitter too.
I don't know.
I watched Shang-Chi this week, so maybe that was what I was tweeting about.
I don't know.
But yeah, so somebody like was messaging my friends and adding them on Instagram, and I was like, I don't know, I can't have this. So I changed my picture of my profile until I figured it out, and I just never made it on private. Follow me, I'll add you. It's not a problem.
You can also follow the podcast at Death and Aliens. Oh shit, I forgot to post on Instagram today. I made it. I just didn't post it.
I was about to say I haven't seen nothing today.
Listen, it was my first day.
Just send me everything. I'll post it for you.
I would, except for that I haven't made everything this week yet because it's my first day of work. I'm getting there, okay? I'm a little behind on my life.
Excellent. You are doing excellent. Anyways, follow us everywhere.
Yeah, and we will see you next week if we haven't had our brains implode by then.
Which is possible.
Bye.
Bye.